Now, the murder of a Northern Cape family has reignited the debate about farm killings. The bodies of Danie Brand, his wife Breggie, and their daughter Elzabie were recovered after they'd gone missing. Parliament's Land Reform Committee has condemned the attack and welcomed the arrest of 4 suspects. Institute for Security Studies senior researcher Johan speaks to us now. Very good morning to you, Johan. What is your response to that latest development?
Good morning. Yeah, you know, it's sad that it took government such a long time to acknowledge that this is a problem. And we've been calling all of us involved in research around farm attacks and farm killings for government to do precisely this, calling especially on the president to acknowledge that this is a problem. And it took a long time, and it's only quite recently that we've had that kind of acknowledgement. And
why has it taken so long? What's the problem here?
Well, we simply don't know it. I think there must be some political sensitivity around the land issue and the farming community. You know, we are speculating, and we wish that government would be open about this. You know, why is it a problem to acknowledge this? Because the facts support the conclusion that not only is our rural communities important to us as a country, but in particular the agricultural sector, because that is where our food comes from. So to have them on a continuous basis being exposed to this kind of ongoing attacks, the violence, you know, we focus so much on the murders, but there's a lot of other violence happening, many people experiencing trauma and physical injuries that survive these attacks.
Tell us a little bit about that violence. Excuse me interrupting. I mean, it's extreme in many cases. Often nothing is stolen, and there's so many explanations put out there by victims and their families. Some say it's genocide. I don't know if that works against them. Some say it's political, and that's despite whoever it is that's been killed on these farms. Yeah,
you know, there's been some research in the past. There was a committee of inquiry that published a report in 2003 that made a number of findings. But that is 17 years ago, and the political situation has changed quite dramatically, and some political parties are making extremely serious threats against the agricultural community. So one cannot blame them from then concluding that some of these attacks are motivated by the political statements made by some political leaders. But there's been no firm research that I've come across that conclusively shows that there's any form of targeted mass killing or genocide aimed at white farmers. But of course, if you look at most of the victims are white, and that may be part of the history of this country. But the attackers are almost exclusively black. So many people would, on the basis of those facts, come to the conclusion that this is organized in an attempt to drive white farmers from the land. But it ignores the fact that
just going back to some of the research that you quoted in your article that I looked at this morning, many of the murder victims are white, but the victims are across the board, aren't they, of all colours, and whether it's the farm owner or the worker there, maybe the violence is not to the same sort of extent, but everybody is a victim here. You touched briefly on the sort of impact it's going to have on commercial farming and how we've lost so many commercial farmers. What needs to be done, do you think, to turn this around?
Oh, well, you know, it's absolutely true. The facts are that everyone on farms are victims or potential victims, whether they are white or black. And I think the police have, over the years, had a number of plans. The most recent one is an updated rural safety strategy that was published in 2019. The problem with the strategy is not that there's anything wrong with the strategy. It is about implementing the strategy. And a part of the problem, on the one hand, was the absence of a political will to ensure that the strategy is properly implemented. And then along with that, the fact that rural police stations are notoriously under-resourced. And so if you want to make this strategy work, you have to make certain that you have the resources in place to do that. You have to strengthen the reservist situation within the police service. So you first need the political will to have the strategy work, and then you have to provide the resources to ensure that this is done.
Johan, good to talk to you. Thank you.